We are now streaming live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And I want to introduce you to my friend and amazing colleague, Jodi Cohen. And she's the founder of Vibrant Blue Oils. And she and I like to geek out about the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve and the importance of all those things to your health. And you guys hear me geeking out on about that all the time. And I'm just super excited to welcome Jodi here today to talk about that and how we can balance that with the power of essential oils, amongst other things. So, welcome, Jodi.
Thanks for having me. And I love your Maui background. It's like my favorite place. It makes you parasympathetic. It calms you down.
Totally. And I slept the whole time I was there. I just got back from there 2 days ago. And
Wow.
I slept every night, like anywhere from 7.5 to 9.5 hours. And I laid on the beach and I swam in the water, and my parasympathetic got really refreshed.
Mine too. No, I love it. That's where we like to go.
Yeah, that's where I want to live, actually. I'm ready. I'm ready. So, for those of you who don't know Jodi and haven't heard of Vibrant Blue Oils, I'm really impressed with the work that she's doing. And she, the parasympathetic state, we're going to talk about what that is. So, I'm going to have her explain that to you and how it affects everything in your body. So if you're here because you have low energy, or you're here because your digestion is a mess, right? Or your neurotransmitters are out of balance and you're feeling off and anxious, that the parasympathetic balance is going to be super important, amongst other things. There's so much more.
Yes.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Jodi. She just finished her book today. Yay! Congratulations, Jodi.
I know.
I'm so excited for you. And she's going to be doing a summit, but it's not until November. So it's great. Plenty of time to think about it and plan for it. She has lectured at various wellness centers and conferences and corporations talking about brain health and stress and detoxification. And she's even been seen in the New York Times, Wellness Mama, Elephant Journal, and numerous other publications. So I'm so excited to have her here today and honored that she took time out of her busy life and busy schedule to be here to talk to us about parasympathetic nervous system. So let's get started by sharing with people, what the heck is the parasympathetic nervous system?
Yeah, so we don't really think about our autonomic nervous system, which takes care of all those functions that we also don't think about, like breathing, heartbeat, muscle movement, all these things that just occur without our intention. And what we don't realize is we're really designed to survive, right? And so what survival means in, prehistoric days, if the lion was chasing you, it meant that your body had to shift gears. Almost like in your car, you're pushing on the gas pedal. So all of a sudden your blood needs to go to your arms and your legs and your muscles so that you can either fight, flee, or kind of freeze and play dead so that maybe the animal doesn't eat you. And when that happens, your pupils get really big so you can see better, and everything that isn't really critical to staying alive in that moment shuts down. So it doesn't really matter if you can digest your food. It doesn't really matter if you can get pregnant. It doesn't really matter if you can detoxify or if your immune system turns on. All that matters is that you're able to survive in that moment. And what's interesting is it's not just physical stressors. Like in modern times, we're not really chased by lions, but sometimes we're driving and someone tries to turn into our lane and they don't see us, and so you have to shift into that survival gear. You maybe brake, you honk, maybe some 4-letter words fall out of your mouth, and then you don't die. And what's supposed to happen is you then switch into the brake state. The kind of, I can calm down, I can relax, I'm not going to die, so my blood can go back to my digestive organs and I'm able to digest my food and assimilate my nutrients. I can start to remove toxins from my body and my immune system can turn back on. And that's ideally what happens. In nature, the animal kind of escapes danger and then switches back into that healing state. Unfortunately, what's happened is that kind of the 24/7 news cycle, our super busy lifestyles, maybe anxiety and stress that keep us thinking about things. And this idea of anticipatory stress, you're worried about something and that kept you alive. So even if you're worried about maybe your relationship or your job or something with your children or your parents, that puts your body into that sympathetic, I'm stressed state. And it's really hard to shift out of that state into the parasympathetic state where all healing occurs. It's really the recovery state. And so if you're not shifting into that recovery state, you're not going to recover. You're not going to keep up with the daily detoxification load, and you're going to start to see symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. Great explanation. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. It makes it real simple to understand. And it makes
Yes.
it real clear based on what you said, what the disadvantage of staying in that state is, right?
Yes.
It's affecting everything. Your digestion,
Yes.
your immune system, your detoxification systems, your heart rate, the strength and the health of your cardiovascular system. So like, okay, so if this is the state we want to be in after we get out of danger, right? It's
Yes.
important when the car is about to hit you, or that you have that immediate get out of
Yes.
the
Yes.
response, right? And if somebody's standing looking at you holding a gun up,
Yes.
you get into that state so that you can mobilize the resources to get away.
Yes.
But sitting at your desk and getting mad because of the news or
Oh, yeah. I know. Yelling at your television, the Super Bowl.
Yes.
How could you miss that pass?
Yeah. That's not very helpful for us.
No.
And what happens when people stay in that sympathetic state?
Yeah.
Periods of time, right?
Well, one of my practitioners uses the analogy of even race cars have to make pit stops to like change their tires and get more gas. And if you think about it, even, the overachievers out there that are going, you need to stop and you need to eat something and you need to sleep a bit and you need to let your body recover so that you can get up and go the next day.
So what are your favorite ways to pull yourself out of that? I know you've had, lots of opportunity in your life to really put it to practice. How do you make that switch, right? You're in that go.
Yeah. So what's interesting anatomically about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system is they're innervated by the same nerve. It's this vagus nerve that starts in your brainstem, which is kind of the back of your neck. And the top 1/3 is your sympathetic fight or flight state. And then the lower 2/3 is your parasympathetic rest and digest state. And it's that nerve that's kind of the gear shift between the two. So anything that activates that nerve helps you shift into the parasympathetic state. So it starts at the brainstem, it winds around on both sides behind the ear. It's really accessible. Then it goes through your heart, your lungs, every organ of digestion, your bowel system. So for example, yoga. I love yoga. The great thing about yoga is you're doing this deep diaphragm breathing. And since the vagus nerve goes through the lungs, when you're doing deep breathing, you're activating the vagus nerve. So that's a really great, easy way to do that. It also innervates all of your facial muscles. So like laughing really hard is a great way to activate it. There are also some things that are a little bit harder to do. You can splash your face with freezing water.
Ouch.
You can use a tongue depressor to gag yourself because it controls the gag reflex. You can do things that might make people squirm, like coffee enemas, because the caffeine in the coffee, it's stimulating your gallbladder, which is innervated by your vagus nerve. So it's kind of pick your own adventure. There's so many ways that you can activate your vagus nerve. The thing that I have found to be the easiest is a combination of clove and lime oils, essential oils. Essential oils are really concentrated parts of the plant. And clove is super stimulatory and has this amazing component called eugenol that has been found to help, I swear to God, almost everything. And then lime has really small molecules, and like all citrus oils, it helps with glutathione, which is a big antioxidant. So you can just put a tiny, tiny amount. If you feel right behind your earlobe, there's that bone, that's your mastoid bone. That is where your vagus nerve is most accessible. So that's just an easy way. If you're super into gagging yourself with a tongue depressor, go have lots of fun. I just found that adherence to that protocol was not as good as, oils.
No, exactly. So using that oil,
yes.
You use it like all day long? Do you use it like after a situation that's gotten you there? How do you use it?
So if people have never used oils before, I basically say just put it by your toothbrush. And when you brush your teeth in the morning and before bed, use it then. Because if you can kind of tether a new habit to an old habit, and then the more you start to see, like, oh, I feel calmer. Oh, my digestion is better. Oh, I was constipated and now I'm not. Then they'll remember it and they'll start to integrate it into their lives and carry it around. If you have autoimmunity or you're pretty symptomatic, I would say try to use it before your meals, because what it's doing is it's switching you into that I can digest my nutrients. Like, hindsight is 2020. I used to spend all this time, money, and energy cooking these really nutrient dense meals, and then I would basically put it in a little glass Tupperware thing and have my kids eat it in the minivan on the way to their soccer game. So they were not eating in the parasympathetic state, so they probably weren't assimilating their nutrients. So the more you can kind of eat in that calm state, your body's really able to integrate the nutrients. And one thing, I have so many clients that they keep testing low for like iron or B12 and vitamin D, and they're supplementing. They're like, why isn't this working? And I'm like, well, if you're not in the parasympathetic state, you can't really assimilate your vitamin, minerals, and nutrients. So it's a little bit like throwing money away if you're not actually eating your food or digesting your supplements when you're in the parasympathetic state. So minimum twice a day with your toothbrush, ideally 3 times a day before meals. And then if you're going through something, a really stressful time, like I have clients that use it every 20 minutes. I have people that, especially my LA clients that are like in their cars and they're like, oh my God, I can't drive without having an anxiety attack. Use it in traffic. Use it whenever you're having those moments where you just need to remember to flip the switch and calm down.
Awesome. So it's not too late if you've already gotten in the state. Will it actually shift, and will it prevent you from going there? Like, you go visit your mother, and every time you go visit your mother, she tells you how you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, and you're too fat, and who do you think you are anyway, and you get stressed out.
It's a really great tool for calming anxiety. And what's really interesting? Our mutual colleague Titus Chu uses oils in a really interesting way, because most things on the right side of the brain affect the left side of the body and vice versa. But your nose, your olfactory channel, if you smell something through your right side, it goes directly to the right side of the brain. Similarly, smelling through the left goes to the left side of the brain. So there are certain traits that are kind of demonstrating right brain dominance or left brain dominance. So if you can activate the other side of the brain, you can balance it out, and that trait kind of balances out. So he identified that anxiety attacks are right frontal overdominance. And so to help people calm down, he has them smell something through their left nostril. And it's interesting, you can only smell through one nostril at a time. So you can plug the other one or just smell, and just within 3 breaths. Usually people, I used to have panic attacks at the checkout line in the supermarket. It was the craziest thing. I'd spend however long finding everything, and then the line would be too long and my heart would feel like it was going to explode out of my chest. And so now, anytime I feel that way, I just smell things through my left nostril, and it calms me right down. It's amazing.
Wow. And so you found that it's lime and clove.
Clove and lime for the parasympathetic, but honestly, it's whatever you like. I think that we have this innate intelligence for what we need. Like, you crave chocolate when you need magnesium. You crave a hamburger when you need iron. If you're, at Whole Foods and you're smelling, gosh, rose smells great for me, that's a good choice for you. Or if you like orange or lemon, if you like something, you're going to use it more. Frankincense can be fabulous, or it can really not be appealing. And so people are like, but I've heard it's good, but I can't stand the way it smells. And I'm like, if you don't like the way it smells, you're not going to enjoy using it. Like, find something you like.
Yeah. I'm just going to put you in a stress state if you're having to smell.
Exactly. Yes.
Stuff to get me calm, and it's not.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so stressful to de-stress, isn't it?
Stressful to de-stress. I love that. So I really love this. So clove, is there a particular ratio?
Well, we're kind of proprietary about that. But one thing that I found, the essential oil market is very do-it-yourself. They have you buy all the raw ingredients. And then what I found is that a lot of people have a lot of anxiety, like, oh my God, I did it wrong. I'm so nervous. And so I really just wanted to take that off people's plate, and create blends that we've made them for you. We've tested them. You don't need to buy all the raw ingredients and mix it yourself and worry that maybe you You know, instead of using a cup of sugar and a teaspoon of flour, you flipped it and it's all wrong. Let's not let you worry about that. We're just going to take care of it for you. And then there are other people that are like, I am so good at blending my own, you know, and I'm sure they can come up with a combination that works for them with their own ingredients. So I really try to meet people where they're at.
Yeah, and I find that, you know, for me, if I have an oil that is a particular, you know, digest formula or
Yeah.
immune system formula, I'm just going to throw it in my bag. And so when I'm traveling and, you know, I shouldn't have eaten that. I know that what I can take. I don't have to sit there going, well, how much of this and how, and what ones were those?
Yes. Yes.
You know? So I like
Yeah,
that.
it's nice to have a default, especially if you're entering into a stressful situation. If you can almost figure out what am I going to do, you know, like your mother-in-law or your mother, if they start to criticize me, how am I going to kind of stay in integrity so that it's a positive experience for my spouse and my children and everyone else?
Yeah. So how did you get interested in parasympathetic and the nervous system and how it's affected?
Yeah, I think that necessity is the mother of invention. Um, my ex-husband was bipolar and went through a really dark phase where I was really trying to do everything. I was supporting him, I was working, I had 2 kids, I was like the class rep. I mean, it was just, in hindsight, I was insane. So ultimately, he hit such a low that we had to have him hospitalized. And the moment that I knew he was safe and it wasn't my job to keep him safe, I collapsed. It was full adrenal exhaustion. And the kids were 5 and 7. And, you know, obviously I was a single parent suddenly. And it took every ounce of energy to get out of bed in the morning, to make them breakfast, to pack their lunches, to drop them off at school. And then I would come home and literally all I could do is binge watch the Kardashians. Like it was just, that was about as much as I could handle. And I knew enough. I mean, I'd been practicing nutritional therapy for about 4 years at that point. I knew it was my adrenals. I was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at my adrenals. And it wasn't hurting me. You know, it's a little bit like I was running a marathon and maybe it got me to mile 5, but it certainly wasn't, you know, getting me further than that. And I had some very good friends in the supplement industry who came over and had this big box of oils and they put them down next to me on the couch. You know, I was still kind of watching the Kardashians and they said, these are going to help you. And I thought, okay, you know, I'll try anything. I'm super desperate. And then they wouldn't really tell me. They're like, we're not going to tell you how to use them. You're just going to figure it out. And so I said, all right, you know, okay. And then they left and they left the box next to me on the couch. And suddenly I had this idea, like, I wonder if there's anything in here that would help my adrenals, you know, and I had been muscle testing supplements. So I kind of knew how to do that. So I tested the box just to see is anything going to help. And I got an incredibly strong yes. And that got my attention. Like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if like something could help me? So then the way I test supplements, I usually get like 1 or 2 per organ system, but I got 5. And that was curious to me as well, because I never had that happen. And then it occurred to me like, oh, I can combine them. So I grabbed the 5 oils and got off the couch, which was, you know, a big accomplishment back then. And I was so green to oils. I just grabbed a shot glass and started testing ratios and combined them in a shot glass and put them on my adrenals, which, you know, for the listeners, if you don't know, the easiest way to find your adrenals, they sit on top of your kidneys on your low back. Your kidneys are about the size of your fist and they line up with your very bottom rib. So if you just put, you know, your hand behind your back and line up your fist with your bottom rib, and then right on top are your adrenals. So that's where I put the oil, and it was like a switch was flipped. I suddenly felt like myself for the first time in a month. And I'm a lifelong runner. That was always kind of my go-to. You know, whenever someone broke my heart or I didn't get the job or whatever went wrong, I would go running and that would help me feel better. But I had been so exhausted that I had no energy to do that. And I thought I can go running. I was like, okay. So I went, you know, short little like 3-mile run, came back and felt good still. So I put more on. And then I thought, oh my goodness, I could maybe go to the supermarket. So I went to the supermarket and I bought their favorite meal at the time was chicken marsala, which was a little complicated to make. I made it gluten-free, but I was like, I can do this. So I made their favorite dinner. And then I did like 4 loads of laundry and put the laundry away and cleaned the house. And I was like, wow, this was my first productive day. Like something's working.
Yeah.
And so that night, you know, I'd get them to bed and then I'd lie awake all wired and tired and thinking and worrying. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if those oils can help with this, you know, and I knew it was my pineal gland. So I kind of just kept making up remedies to fix whatever was going on for me. And within about a month, I started to feel enough like myself, you know, like when you're sick or when you're grieving or something, everyone's reaching out to you, everyone wants to help, but I'm an introvert. So instead of saying like, yes, please come over, I was like, oh my God, just, you know, I'll reach out when I recover. And so I did. And one of my friends, recognizing that I'm an introvert, is like, why don't we just, there's this great kind of super healthy restaurant near us. She's like, why don't we just tell everyone that you're going to be there, you know, from like noon to 1:30, and they're welcome to come by if, you know, they want to see you. So like 30 people showed up and they were all really curious. Like, what are you, you know, we've been kind of watching, we knew what was going on. How did you get out of this? And so I told them and they were like, we want to try it. Like, that sounds great. Or I have clients that could use that. So it's just kind of like my little, like, all right, you know, let's just see. And it seemed to help everyone.
And at that point, down the ratios, like,
oh yeah. I'm like a journalist. I'm very OCD about details. So I realized, I was like, I bet someone else is doing this. Like, it's so obvious, someone must be doing this. So I finally went online and looked at, you know, how people were doing oils. And I was super surprised that no one was really looking through the lens of the different organ systems and regions of the brain. And so then I was like, well, how are they doing this? And I realized that they made it so complicated that I would have felt completely unqualified. So I was a little bit grateful that I just didn't have the mental capacity to do that research. But to answer your question, I had also been doing yoga for years. And as a practitioner, there were some blind spots in my practice. There were certain things that were really hard for me to support clients with. And they were primarily lymph drainage, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and then helping with sleep, with insomnia. And so once I kind of figured out that these oils could be combined in blends that helped reach certain parts of the brain, you know, because they have the right chemistry, they're really small and fat soluble, so they can actually travel through the blood-brain barrier. I started kind of identifying, like, if I could do anything, like if I could invent any remedy or any, you know, supportive supplement, what would it be? And I just kind of went through my personal wish list, and that's how I created the parasympathetic blend. And we've got a great one for lymph drainage, and then another one that helps to activate and heal the pineal gland, so it naturally releases melatonin. Just kind of all the things that I really wanted but didn't quite know how, you know, I couldn't figure out that vitamin B just didn't solve that problem.
Yeah. So now you created this company called Vibrant Blue Oil.
Yes.
And so you have, these oils are available, not just the parasympathetic. I always associate
I have about 50. There are about 7 that are kind of our best sellers. And the other thing that's really important to me, you know, oils are super concentrated essences of plants. Like 1 drop of peppermint oil is kind of the equivalent of 25, you know, tea bags of peppermint. So you really want to make sure that these plants are grown without any pesticides or fungicides, that they're 100% organic, because if they're not, then you're really going to concentrate all of those pesticides into the oil. So that was incredibly important to me.
So how did you find specific growers, or how did you?
Yeah, well, the original friends that dropped off the oils owned a local supplement company. And a lot of supplement companies, you know, including like Apex and Quicksilver, they really help to activate the other ingredients. They're almost like a catalyst. And so tons of supplement companies actually add essential oils into their ingredients. Mm-hmm. And so they had a great relationship with this. Really, I mean, he grew up on farms and sourcing oils. And so he is my person who travels around the world and connects with small farms and helps me really source with integrity.
Awesome. So you've got 50 different blends.
Yes.
That is amazing. I'm just figuring all that out.
Well, it's kind of, it's almost like your wish list, right? Like people who cook, they're like, oh, I wonder if I could have a recipe for this. It's really a wonderful creative exercise of like, if I could fix this, you know, if I could invent a solution, how would I do it? Where would I apply it? And then I feel so lucky to be in the Seattle area where Bastyr is located. And we have so many practitioners who have been so generous with testing things for me, and they can actually get to the micro level where, you know, there are 5 ingredients and they're like, okay, this is working. Let's test all 5 of the ingredients. Let's see if maybe if we added, you know, if we upped the cinnamon and downed the manuka, like how would that tweak this? So I've played with a lot of different formulas and keep refining, but yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. So, so
Yes.
parasympathetic sleep. Sleep is the issue I hear so much, and I'm sure if you're on the call now, just type in if you're having any trouble with sleep, because I want to talk a little bit about that, because I know that that's tied in with parasympathetic
Oh, yes.
depression,
Yeah.
and sympathetic dominance. So,
Yes. Yeah.
so
Do you
tell
want me
me more
to talk about
sleep.
that or wait for a
Yeah.
specific question?
Yeah. So just talk to me about sleep and how.
Okay, so the thing that I think is the most interesting about sleep is it's not just tranquilizing, it's one of 4 issues. If you're having trouble falling asleep and that's your main issue, that's usually a relationship between your sleep hormone, melatonin, and your stress hormone, cortisol. So these two kind of alternate. So cortisol is high, melatonin is low. So what's supposed to happen is you wake up in the morning and you have energy, right?
Right.
That's your cortisol kicking in and you're not so sleepy. So your melatonin is low. And then as the day wears on and it gets darker, your pineal gland releases melatonin in response to darkness. It's actually kind of level with your eyes so that it can really take in the light. So at the end of the day, your cortisol is supposed to be pretty low and your melatonin's high. Here's what unfortunately happens. When we are worried or anxious, and we were talking about this with the, you know, thought-driven stressors can activate your body's stress response. So all of a sudden you're worried about, you know, your child's getting a D in a class or something, and you can't stop ruminating about that. So that triggers your body to release the stress hormone cortisol. So you're lying in bed, you're worried, your cortisol is high, and it's almost like a teeter-totter. So if cortisol is high, it forces melatonin low. So what you can do, you know, you can supplement with melatonin, but your body's kind of always monitoring levels. And if you're externally supplementing, then your body thinks, oh, I don't need to produce more. I'm good. So it kind of down regulates its own production. So you're not actually fixing the problem. You're just putting a Band-Aid on it. But what you can do, essential oils, because they're so small and fat soluble, by topically applying them, like on top of the head, sides of the head, back of the head, just all around the head, they can help trigger your pineal gland to naturally release melatonin. It's almost like your phone glitches. You know, what do? You reboot it and then it restarts. You can use oils to help match the natural frequency and rhythm of regions of your brain so that they reboot, and then you naturally release melatonin. It's much easier to fall asleep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was one, right?
That was one. And then most of my clients, you know, if you're over 40 and you have any stress level in the day, sometimes night waking is an issue. And it happens at different times with kind of different intensities. So if you're waking up around 1 in the morning and you are so wide awake that you could go clean the kitchen or throw the laundry in the machine, or, you know, maybe you have a work deadline and you're on your laptop, that is an adrenal response. It's a blood sugar response. So what happens typically is your blood sugar dips too low, you know, and you have to stay alive. Your blood sugar has to stay at a good level so that you get fuel to your brain. So your adrenal glands kind of kick out the emergency cortisol to help raise your blood sugar up, right? But then you're suddenly adrenalized and you're super wide awake. It's your pancreas that releases this hormone insulin to carry the sugar back into your cells so that you're not so wide awake. So if you can do something to support your pancreas, then you move the sugar into your cells more quickly and you get sleepier. So we have an oil that helps to do that for the pancreas. It's rose geranium and some other ones, but rose geranium is amazing for the pancreas.
Nice.
If you're waking up around 3 a.m. and you're slightly groggy, or maybe you need to use the restroom, that's often a detoxification organ wake up, like your liver or your gallbladder. So things that you can do to support those, castor oil. You know, you can do a complicated pack where you take burlap and castor oil and a heating pad and plastic and do that for 20 minutes. Or you can just be lazy like me and wear kind of a ratty t-shirt and put castor oil over your liver gallbladder, which is kind of right under your right breast. And then the other thing that has been really helpful, you can take things like binders. So what happens is your liver is processing toxins, right? And then it releases it into the bile in the gallbladder. And then the gallbladder releases that bile into your small intestine, where it then gets processed through the intestines and winds up in the toilet. But what sometimes happens is it gets reassimilated through the intestines. So if you take things like charcoal, clay, chlorella, there are tons of binders that you can take, then it kind of grabs these toxins and pulls them out of your system. So basically you're lessening the load for the liver. So instead of recirculating and causing the liver to have to do the same thing twice, it's taking them out of the body, and the liver gets to check that off its to-do list.
Good. Cool.
Yeah.
3? Is that 4?
That's 3. And then the 4th one is hormonal. And hormonal is liver related and adrenal related. And so just trying to, mostly if you can help to support your liver and your gallbladder, because one of the toxins they are eliminating are old hormones. So just helping to ensure that, you know, the bad things leave your body, that allows you to have more energy to focus on, you know, the new toxins.
Cool. I'm going to add a 5th one.
Okay.
The inability to get to bed. Like you just keep pushing, and I got to do this and I got to do that. And we're staying up a lot. I hear this from a lot of folks. It's been my thing. I've gotten better at it over the last month or so.
Yeah. The overachiever. One.
Yeah, the overachiever.
Yeah, that I would do Rose for that, because you know it's really interesting. This is actually a cute story. My daughter is a sophomore in high school, and they had to like find a laureate, a scientist to study, and so she Googled some program, Find a Laureate, and they matched her with a Nobel laureate in Seattle who studies the olfactory system.
Ooh,
this woman
how
named.
perfect is that?
I know. Well, and it was funny because sometimes. She's just great. Like sometimes I kind of read what she's reading or just look at what she's doing, just so we have good dinner conversation, because she's really fascinating and I want to support her. So anyway, I looked up this woman, Linda Buck, and her research, and what she did. The reason that smell is such a predominant odor is because it kept us alive, right? There was kind of predator odor, there was fire. It was a really early warning detection for safety issues. And so unlike the other 4 senses, it goes directly into the part of the brain called the amygdala. It bypasses some other areas. So anyway, she was looking at the receptors that kind of pick up the odor in the olfactory channel, and she identified specific ones that were related to predator odor or fear. And then she took it one step further and said, is anything going to cancel out or block this predator odor or fear? And it turns out it was rose essential oil. So there's a lot of merit to stopping to smell the roses. But I think that drive to overachieve is kind of that fear and anxiety that we're not enough or we won't get it done. Yeah. So if you can kind of calm that fear with rose, then, you know, you're more, it's easier to say like, you know, Scarlett O'Hara, tomorrow, I can do it. It doesn't need to be right now.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. So I just want, for people who are coming in late, this is speaking with Jodi Cohen, and she's the founder of Vibrant Blue Oils. And the website, I'm going to give you a website, is vibrantblueoils.com, right?
Yeah, and I'll give them, actually, since we talked a lot about parasympathetic state, I'll give them like a free parasympathetic toolkit. We can give you the URL to put in the show notes.
Okay, and I think you did that.
Oh, good.
Is it vibrantblueoils.com/parasympathetic state?
I think that's what it is. Yay.
All right.
Yeah, just to, you know, because I think, well, I know I'm a New Yorker, so sometimes I talk way too fast and people are like, wait, what did she say?
Not too fast for me. It's
okay.
Good. Yeah. So, so this is the link to a blog post that you wrote.
Oh, okay. We'll give you a better link to like a kit.
To a kit. Okay.
Yes. I will actually
put that in the post. Okay. Let's see how we're going to do that. Here. All right. I'm trying to control this from the phone and the...
No, I got it. Are a lot of people on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm going to look to see right now. So I'm going to put this on. It looks like there's a bunch. Yeah.
Oh, yay. Hi, guys.
Comments. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let me know if they have questions.
Yeah, definitely. This is a topic, you know, that I talk about all the time. It's so critical to health, overall health. I talk about every disease is really
So, it's interesting. I went through, I had a pretty traumatic 17 months. I lost, my son was killed in a car accident, my father died, and then my best friend died. And someone told me when this happened, all I needed to do was eat, sleep, and move. And I really appreciated that because I think, especially when anything happens, it's so overwhelming. Like some of my clients, I give them like 2 supplements and it's overwhelming. Wait, when do I take them? How do I take them? And
Uh-huh.
so the more you can simplify and clean it up for people, the easier it is for them to actually execute. So if they can only remember like eat, and eat in the parasympathetic state, like use oil on their vagus nerve before they eat, that's,
That's
that's
simple.
great. Yeah, and honestly, if you can do those 3 things, eat so that you're assimilating nutrients and you're building blocks, sleep so that your body can clean house and heal, and move so that your brain gets oxygen and energy. Like that's a lot.
Yeah. And so that was a challenging time for you. And I didn't realize all of this. I knew about your son, but I didn't know about your father and your friend.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, I mean what was so crazy is I realized it's been 17 months tomorrow
oh
since
my
my son died. And in that time I got a book deal and I wrote a book. Like it's real, but see, I share that over. I think we all do whatever we need to deal with pain.
deal with
My default is to go, go, go and achieve and achieve and achieve because then I have less time to feel.
then you have
So
less time to feel. But on the other hand, right, it keeps you in that sympathetic state.
it does. I mean, there's definitely that idea of, dopamine is your neurotransmitter for rewards, and it's released when you like have sex, eat chocolate, do cocaine. But the more you can find things that help you feel like you're on the right track, then the better your mood is.
Yeah, I hear you, but I'm just thinking of all, and I remember, when it happened with your son and how you were so, oh, of course, devastated, and then you processed it. I loved how you got on Facebook Live and you just said,
Oh yeah,
today's a really bad day, and this is what I'm feeling, and I think that's an important piece that people don't
huge.
recognize because you keep it locked up in here, and when it's locked up, it just grows and grows and grows. And for you as an
I think
introvert,
shame is the most devastating emotion, and I think it's interesting. A friend of mine from my early career, Jodi wrote the book. She said she covered the whole Harvey Weinstein piece, and she was actually speaking in Seattle last night. But what she was talking about is the worst part of this is no one was allowed to talk about it. It was almost like you were supposed to be nice to your potential rapist, so you didn't hurt their feelings
oh
while you
God,
were rebuffing them. And I feel like just being able to articulate what we're going through and have someone validate us, like, gosh, I'm sorry that's happening.
yeah,
That's all you need to say to people is, I'm sorry you're going through that. That must be hard. And just hearing that can be so affirming and validating. And they're like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like it's okay to feel violated or unhappy about this. And then
it's
it
not
just
just
helps them.
okay; it's normal. I mean,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
how you deal with it. Like how long do you stay there, and and what you can do to support yourself, and whether you surround yourself with friends and you share it. But it's just normal to feel that way.
Yeah, and so I would almost encourage, and that's another interesting thing about grief. Like you're supposed to kind of be a puddle in the corner in black. You're not allowed to talk about it because, other people might make other people uncomfortable. But the more you can share and process, especially for me, I don't know if this is common, but sometimes I feel slimed by people or judged. And if I can just kind of share it and say, like, okay, that felt really yucky. And just talk it through, then you feel better. It's like you release it. You don't need to carry it with you. Let it go.
Yeah, and you can release it in a way that says, "I feel this way," rather
Yes.
than you.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think it's super interesting. I think that blame, shame, and guilt are all kind of tied together. And I don't think there's any benefit to any of them. It's just your way of avoiding personal responsibility, right? When you're blaming other people, and personal responsibility is a really interesting topic because there are certain things, like especially as a business owner, right? Anything that happens in your business, even if it was someone else's choice and you didn't know about it, that's your responsibility. You get to own that. But then there are also people that kind of project things on you or want you to carry things that are not your responsibility. And you get to say, like, thank you, and I'm giving that back to you. And so the more you can be clear about what's yours and what somebody else's, the less you fall into blame, shame, and guilt.
Exactly. And it's owning what's yours.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a book called Extreme Ownership, and it was written by an
Ugh,
ex-Navy SEAL. And he said, basically, like in business, if you mess up, I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to say, what did I fail to do?
yes.
I mean, if it keeps
Yes.
happening, then obviously you've got the wrong person in that place. But it's really start from the starting point is what did I do wrong? What did I
Yes.
do that? And what could I have done to help support you better so you could have been successful? So it's a great way to look at it. Yeah. So there was other questions. One person wanted you to repeat the oil for sleep.
The oil for sleep. It's our circadian rhythm blend. You can go to the site and either order it, we'll give you a coupon, or look at the ingredients and make it yourself. But what you do is you want to apply it. Basically, your pineal gland is right in the middle of your brain, like kind of level with your eyes so you can detect darkness. So you're going to apply it very top of your head, kind of right above your ears, and then the very back of your head. And that helps to kind of surround it so that it gets assimilated.
Cool. So it's the parasympathetic blend is the one to that you should
Um,
put all over your
on the vagus nerve, right? And that helps you switch gears into the recovery parasympathetic state.
I think there was a coupon you gave. I'm looking at the notes that I have here. I think you
Yeah,
gave
my assistant Rebecca said she sent you it, but I think we give you a bigger coupon in the guide that you can download. But if you use the coupon code welcome10, all one word, you'll get $10 off your first order.
Okay, this one says coupon code Reademery10, whatever that is. Oh, 10% versus $10. So
yeah, it depends on how much you do the math.
You can do the math, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say 10%. There we go. All right, good. So it's the circadian, and the other one was rose. You said rose.
Yeah, and we sell our version. Rose is super expensive, and what's interesting, you don't actually need like the pure only rose, not diluted. So we sell what we call a rose blend. So it is diluted with fractionated coconut oil, but I find it to be as effective. You know, there's a part of me that's really all about efficiency. Like it doesn't need to, like I don't shop at Neiman Marcus or Saks Fifth Avenue, and I don't shop at Walmart. I kind of like Target and Nordstrom Rack. Like, you get good value.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So a couple of things, right? So which ones work for you, nerves and anxiety? Was that the parasympathetic one?
Yeah, the parasympathetic. And the other thing that I love, we have an adrenal blend, which is the first one I formulated. That's amazing for anxiety. I think what happens with anxiety, there's this idea of an amygdala hijack. It's kind of like your body gets stuck in one gear and it keeps throwing out cortisol, which makes you anxious. So if you can modulate your adrenals, this was one thing that was always a frustration of mine in practice, is that if you have people they can do a 24-hour cortisol test. And what you kind of find is it's not like level, it's not always spiking when it's supposed to. So it's almost like whack-a-mole, like, okay, is your cortisol too high? Should we bring it down? Is your cortisol too low? Exactly. So it was a guessing game, but plants have this innate intelligence. So they have these adaptogenic herbs, right? Like ashwagandha, rhodiola, licorice that you can take that kind of modulate. So if you're too high, they help bring you down. If you're too low, they bring you up. It's not this guessing game of like, let's hope that we give you the too high supplement when it's too high. It's just kind of, it meets you where you're at. So that's what I love about our adrenal oil as well, is that it really, you don't have to guess, it will kind of put you back into balance no matter what state you're in the moment.
I love that, because if you are feeling this,
yeah.
But you need energy, if it's going to calm you down and make clear versus put you to sleep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't want to be put to sleep if you're at work.
I know. Right? I know, right?
Oh my. Let's see. There's several people. Brenda says, I love essential oils. My entire family is using them and they love it. Where can I put parasympathetic oil on my foot for constipation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have a foot chart on our site, or you can email us at info@vibrantblueoils and we'll send you a picture of it. It's kind of, if this is your left foot, it's right around here. And the feet, for any essential oils, they're a fabulous application point for a couple of reasons. So some of the oils are kind of hot, which means that they might make your skin feel hot or turn a little bit red. So the skin is thicker on the bottom of your feet, so it usually won't have that reaction there. And the other fantastic thing, your ears, your hands, and your feet all have reflex points that you can use. You know, like your big toe is correlated with your brain. So putting oils there can help activate different parts of your body. And especially certain people are really sensitive to smells. So if you put it on the bottom of your feet and you put socks on, you usually don't smell it. So it's just a nice channel. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a totally different route versus olfactory going in your nose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with oils, there's olfactory, which is fabulous and goes directly into your brain because your nose cells are brain cells. There's transdermal, which is fantastic if if you think about ingesting things, they have to travel through the stomach with stomach acid and the liver where they get processed, and it can take a while. And by the time it gets to where it's going, it might be modified. But we know from like hormonal creams and nicotine patches, things get into your bloodstream pretty quickly, especially things that are fat-based because your cells and your cell membranes are fat-based.
Right.
So I personally love to topically apply certain oils over the organ system or on the bottom of the feet because I think that's a really effective. It's kind of like when there's traffic in your city and your secret route, that doesn't have traffic, you can always get there faster. It's just the most express way to get places.
That's awesome. Now, would you put an oil like a coconut oil or something between the foot and the oil? Because, some people, it's very sensitive. Like if you put oregano oil on your skin directly, it's probably
That's super hot. Yeah, oregano oil, thyme, cloves, cinnamon, all of those are really hot. That's a great question, and it's a little bit of personal preference. Like, how much salt do you put on your soup? What I always say is like be overly cautious to start. Like always, always, always over dilute with a carrier oil, and you can make that simple or complicated. You can use coconut oil from Trader Joe's, super affordable. You can use sesame oil, you can use jojoba oil, olive oil, whatever you want. If you're just starting out and you don't necessarily want to go over the top, just use something you have in your house, you know? And the other thing that's interesting is certain points in the body assimilate more, like points of high circulation, like your wrists, behind your ears. Those points get a lot of circulation, they get into your system quickly. The other thing, if you have any kind of cut or scrape, that's going to get in more quickly. So be a little bit careful. I wouldn't say frankincense can heal cuts and scrapes, but other than that, I don't know that I would put oil on like open wounds. And the other thing, when you are have higher circulation, so say you just took a hot shower or you just exercised, your blood flow is going to be greater. So if you put it on, then it's going to assimilate faster.
Cool. Well, those are really good tips. That's really good tips. Well, thank you, Carol. Sleeping issue. Wake up during the night is what Lisa's saying, and that's what you addressed there. I do not see it. I'm not sure what you don't see, Carol, but I did put the link to the parasympathetic kit, the toolkit, and I put a coupon code for 10% off, and I put something else in there. I'll tell you. Oh, the guide, and then the blog post. So the oil that you recommended, just to reiterate for Nancy, the oil that is for not being able to get to sleep.
Yeah, that's our circadian rhythm. And then night waking, it would be, actually we have a blood sugar support kit that has pancreas, liver, and adrenal. That's a really good one. Usually, if you're supporting your pancreas and you're supporting your liver, possibly your gallbladder too, that can go a long way. And it's actually not just, yes, it will help you stay asleep through the night, but it's also, those are good things to support.
Cool. And we have a blood sugar program that we are going to be launching again in March, and I think this kit could be really helpful.
Oh, that's so great. That's so important. So many people don't realize that how critical blood sugar is.
Blood sugar is so critical. Got a couple of things. Nancy says my deepest sympathy. June said I lost my only son and lived with fear every day. Is there anything that the fear, right?
So I'll tell you, most people don't realize this, like grief, I guess there is a fifth, grief wake ups, like early in the grieving process. And it's this crazy, it almost feels like you're having a heart attack. Like grief in Chinese medicine is associated with your lungs. And I would wake up and literally feel like I couldn't breathe. Like I was like, this is what an asthma attack must feel like. And rose oil, and I would put it over my heart. Or we have a lung blend that really helps address grief. And it's funny to me because I know oils work, but those times when like you over exercise and your back really hurts and then you put an oil on and you feel better right away and you're okay, oh, that worked, like
Oh,
that
that
helped.
worked. Right.
Or when you're having those kind of horrific grief wake ups and you use an oil and then you're able to feel better. Like it's pretty profound when you're having an intense
Yeah,
physical, mental, emotional pain, and that helps shift it.
absolutely. That's really fascinating that it can work that quickly, isn't it?
Yes, and I was so grateful. I mean, people were like, "You were well resourced." I was very. I seriously don't know what I would have done if I hadn't known to do that because it's super intense, and you we don't know what you don't know when you're thrown into something new and you weren't expecting it. My son died in a car accident. He went on a road trip. I kissed him goodbye that morning. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't see him again. So, um, it's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. Absolutely. Oh, and it's so good that you were able to figure those things out. Debbie and Morris. So when we purchase the oils, does it tell you where and how to use them?
Yes, we do two things. We email you because we're trying to be paper conscious, a very specific application point, and then when you get your order, it will have very specific instructions. And on top of that, we're always available by email if you have any questions.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool because that's kind of customer service you don't see very often. You just buy from,
Yeah,
ABC, whatever, supplier, and that's it, So I think that's
yeah.
really
Well,
cool.
it's funny. My first job in high school was Nordstrom, back when they were still like this sweet little Seattle-based company, and they were so into customer service. Like there was a famous story of how they took a tire return and they don't sell tires; they only sell clothing. But I really feel like kind of going back to validating. I feel like um, medical care can become so clinical and so cold and so lacking in kind of kindness and compassion, and I really feel like that hinders the journey. Like people just want to feel validated and recognized, and
Yeah,
it's really important.
and to
And
know
and
that there's a
it
person who did it.
yeah, well, and it also feels like the it's how I want to be treated. So, you know,
Yeah, I
lead with
love
how
that.
you want people to treat you.
I love that because it's different when you buy from huge companies that you have to get in touch with this person or that.
Well, I think
So
it'll be interesting to see how the world unfolds, but I think there's a difference between masculine energy and feminine energy. I think that I worked in the U.S. Senate right out of college, and people used to say you're either motivated by fame, power, or money. And even then, at like 20, I was like, that's really not what I'm motivated by. Like I'm kind of motivated by making the world a better place and helping people. And I think that the old energy probably fell into one of those three categories, but I'm seeing, and I definitely feel this with you. The new energy is really about like kindness and compassion and collaboration. And,
right.
there was no benefit to me to not being supportive and kind to anyone else.
Exactly, exactly. It's beautiful, and I'm motivated too by making the world a better place. And if somebody says to me, "Oh, can you sell my widget XYZ, and I'll give you, all this money to do it," I'm like, "How's this thing going to make the world a better place? And is it something
Yeah,
that
I
needs
know. I know. I
you
get
know,
that all the time. And I'll try things. And if it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to like, why would but then if it
right?
does work for me, I'm like, this is great. Like
Yeah,
everyone should know about this.
exactly, exactly. So I'm so excited about your oils here. Um, June said hers in a car accident too. So you guys are kindred spirits here. Super. So Carol found it. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that I'm seeing. Um, yeah, so I really appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to leave people with? So maybe before we do that, I want to just say, just tell people the best way to get a hold of you. I
Oh,
guess.
yeah. If you want to email me at info@Vibrant Blue Oils, we get back to you right away. Either my assistant or I will answer your email. And yeah, take advantage of these downloads because you'll get some great information and some coupons.
and I put the link into an easy to say thing. So I have let's see, drritamarie.com/parasympathetic. Kind of long, but yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
But dremarie.com/parasympathetic, and that'll give you access to the guide. And in there, there's a $10 off coupon. And then I just gave you the coupon Rita Marie 10, I think it is. And Rita Marie 10 is going to give you 10% off. And then I gave you the link to her blog post. That was the first one I gave you.
Yeah, so if you're
Oil.
spending more than $100, use the Rita Marie 10. If it's under $100, use the one for $10 off. Yeah.
In there. Cool. Okay, cool. That's it. And I thank you so very much. Lots of people are saying thank you. Send some hearts and love.
Oh,
Jodi.
thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome, and nobody's really talking about this. Like, I love that you focus on the parasympathetic, because I talk about it all the time in relationship to healing from whatever it is people are working on. You have to balance the parasympathetic, or you can't get well. So I so appreciate that you have an actual physical tool, because when you're in sympathetic, to say to yourself, now you need to calm down. But if you have something that you can physically do.
Well, trust me, there were definitely years when people were like, you just need to stress less. And I'm like, oh, yes, I could go to a yoga retreat all day, but the laundry still needs to get done. The meals still need to, it almost felt stressful to try to de-stress. So I love this because it's a really easy hack. I have it in my pocket all the time. I have friends who are skeptical, and I've given it to their kids, and they're like, it's so weird. Like, my kid gets upset when she can't find it. I'm like, that's because it works.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So Jodi Cohen, vibrantblueoils.com. You can email her team at info@vibrantblueoils.com if you have a question about which is the best oil for you to start with, or is there a kit, what does she recommend, and then just use that Rita Marie 10 for 10% off if it's $100 or more. Or if it's under $100 order, then just use the one that's in that the booklet, the little
exactly
toolkit. So thank you everybody so much.
Thank you.
Hearts, and they're sending likes and hearts. So
thank you. My dog has been here with us the whole time. He just wanted to say hi too.
Sweet.
I know, right?
That's a good way to get into parasympathetic too.
Oh, I know.
Cuddling and stroking your pet or your kid or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's the best. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you. Heather says she's going to go give him a try. So, and Melanie just came in, so she'll listen to the replay. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's see. Where do I stop?